Everywhere you look, from the skyscrapers of Manhattan to the markets of Mumbai, there's one uncomfortable truth that keeps repeating itself. Women earn less. Not just in one country, not just in one industry, globally. But why? We've been told it's about choices, about careers, about maternity leave, or part-time work. But if it's just about personal decisions, why do the numbers stay so consistent? Is this just the result of complex economics and outdated norms? Or is it something deeper, something structured, sustained, and protected? What if the gender wage gap isn't just an accident of history, but a system designed to benefit someone else? Today, we're digging in. We'll look at the past, break down the data, and ask, who's really writing the rules, and why do women keep getting the smaller paycheck? Welcome to part 1 of this investigation. The wage gap accident or design? Oh, understand how we got here, we have to rewind the clock. During the World Wars, especially World War II, millions of women were pulled into the workforce. Not by choice, but by necessity. With men on the front lines, factories needed hands. And for the first time, society said, yes, women can do this work. They welded, engineered, assembled. They proved they were more than capable. But when the war ended, the narrative shifted violently. Governments launched campaigns encouraging women to return home. Back to the kitchen wasn't just a slogan, it was state-sponsored messaging. Jobs they'd held during war were handed back to returning soldiers. The factory floor wasn't for Rosie anymore, it was for Ron. This was the beginning of something big, modern domestic ideology. Women were pushed into roles as caregivers, homemakers, emotional support systems. This wasn't just culture, it was a realignment of the economy. And behind it all, industrial capitalism. Capitalism needed a reliable, cheap, full-time workforce, men. It also needed unpaid labor to keep those workers alive, fed, and emotionally stable, women. So we divided roles. One works for wages, the other works for free. And for decades, that system became normal. But was it ever natural? Or just economically convenient? Fast forward to today, and you'd think things have changed. But the numbers tell a different story. On average, women globally earn about 77 cents for every dollar a man earns. That gap hasn't closed significantly in decades, and in some countries, it's even widening. In the US, the gap is often quoted around 82 cents on the dollar. But that's before you factor in race. Black and Latina women earn even less, as low as 65 or 60 cents. And this isn't just a Western problem. Countries like Japan, South Korea, and India show even wider disparities, with gender pay gaps over 30% in certain sectors. But here's the kicker, it's not always about the same job, same pay. A lot of the gap is because women are clustered in lower-paying industries, caregiving, education, retail, hospitality. Jobs that involve nurturing, cleaning, assisting. Jobs that society leans on but refuses to reward. Meanwhile, male-dominated fields like tech, engineering, and finance not only pay more, they tend to accelerate men into leadership faster. And then comes what economists call the motherhood penalty. Studies show that a woman's earnings drop significantly after having children, while men's either stay the same or even go up. It's called the fatherhood bonus, a bizarre cultural phenomenon where dads are seen as more stable, more committed, even more promotable. So while women are penalized for being potential caretakers, men are rewarded for having a family. Make that make sense. These aren't just numbers, they're symptoms of a deeper structure. So, is this still just coincidence? Or are these patterns pointing to something intentional? Now, let's be fair. Economists, CEOs, and even some politicians have explanations ready for the gender wage gap, and they sound pretty rational. First up, career choices. They say women choose lower-paying jobs. Teaching, nursing, administration. But here's the thing, why are the jobs women choose always valued less? Why is caring for a child or educating the next generation paid less than writing code or managing a hedge fund? Is that an accident or a value judgment baked into the system? Then there's negotiation. Studies show men are more likely to negotiate their salaries, and more aggressively. But here's what they don't always tell you: when women do negotiate, they're more likely to be penalized for it. Viewed as pushy, difficult, ungrateful. So we're not just looking at behavior, we're looking at how that behavior is perceived. Next is part-time work. Women do take more part-time jobs, often to balance family responsibilities. But that doesn't happen in a vacuum. Our systems are still built around the idea of a full-time male breadwinner and a stay-at-home partner. Flexibility isn't an option in many careers. Maternity leave policies are still laughably outdated in much of the world. And childcare, often so expensive, it wipes out the paycheck entirely. So is part-time work really a choice or a survival tactic? And yes, discrimination still exists. Women being passed over for promotions, getting paid less for the same job. But here's where it gets tricky. Discrimination is hard to prove and easy to dismiss. It's not just some boss slamming his fist on the table saying, "Pay her less." It's thousands of tiny, invisible decisions happening every day. So we're left with this, a system that says it's fair, but still produces the same unequal outcomes over and over. Now, if a machine keeps spitting out the same result, do you blame the gears, or do you start asking who built it, and why? So far, we've heard all the logical reasons. Career paths, personal choices, negotiation styles, motherhood. But here's the question we have to ask. If these same explanations have been repeated for decades, why hasn't the problem gone away? What if it's not just the way things are, but the way things are meant to be? What if this isn't a glitch in the system, but the feature? Think about it. Who benefits from keeping half the population undervalued, underpaid, and overworked? Corporations profit from cheaper labor. Politicians maintain control through economic dependence. Entire economies are structured around unpaid caregiving that women are just expected to provide without question, without compensation. What if keeping women earning less is actually profitable for the people at the top? Not just in dollars, but in power. This isn't about one bad boss or one biased policy. This is about systems, institutions, incentives. And the deeper we dig, the more it looks like someone wants it this way. So in part 2, we're going to follow the money. We'll trace the power structures. And we'll ask the question nobody else is asking. Who gains from this inequality, and how far are they willing to go to protect it? You've heard the facts. You've seen the patterns. Now the real investigation begins. If you're ready to go deeper into the systems that thrive on inequality, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and be ready for part 2. Because next time, we're naming names. Until then, stay curious, stay critical, and remember, the truth doesn't hide, it gets buried. See you in the next one.